This movie tried to warn us, but we didn't listen. We didn't bother to put on the glasses and see the truth about who was truly ruling over us, and what society was forming as our real God. And it's not the God you think. John Carpenter has done a lot of films. He's dabbled in everything. Aliens, cosmic horror, action, slashers, vampires, even biblical stuff. But the movie They Live, while it is an alien film about aliens here occupying us, it's not the kind of alien movie you think. This ain't about xenomorphs or Independence Day. No, this is a broader statement. How they are controlling us. How a bunch of body-snatching, parasitic aliens basically taken over the ruling class and are now turning us humans into cattle. Profiteering from us, extracting all of our resources in doing so. Basically, a parallel to the elite corporate ruling class, their effects on policy and decision-making, and consumerism, and how the market shapes our very identities. They Live was one of the first movies to really look into that thought of what happens when literal propaganda is used by dark forces to indoctrinate and sedate society. It's got Roddy Piper and Keith David engaged in one of the best fight scenes of all time. One of the best fight scenes in the last 40 years, period. All right? If you watch it, you'll know. They could have fleshed this out way more. I truly think a TV show was the most appropriate for fleshing out this kind of concept. Because there's so much to this story. There's so much parallels to real life that you could work off of in a TV show. But what is They Live about? Well, it's about society. With the risk of sounding pretentious and cringe, we live in this society. There might not be aliens, although people think the elites are all lizard people, but still, there might not be aliens controlling us, but my lord. Let me tell you about a couple things that this film touches on that are just fundamentally true. There's something called manufactured consent. Alright? I think Noam Chomsky was the one who coined this term. Maybe, I could be wrong about that. But manufactured consent, what is that? Well, this film, They Live, depicts a society where the populace is manipulated into blindly accepting the status quo. And mass media, whether it be advertisements, billboards, whatever, news, it's used as a weapon. Look at all these. When you put on the sunglasses, these sunglasses that are able to remove subliminal messaging, you get to see what these messages are. That this ruling class is projecting into your mind. Whether it's through billboards or the TV. Consume, conform, buy, watch, blah, blah, blah. Continuously put yourself in this endless cycle of consumerism that's making you miserable. This mirrors modern critiques of advertising, social media, and marketing that manipulate behavior and desires. This is a fundamentally important message today. Look how relevant this all is. Everything's an ad now. Brother, YouTube, where I do most of my work, where I get my money, 2 unskippable ads. This is demonic. I make my money from this, and I'm saying this, okay? Every single app I go on, oh, hey, if you don't want to buy a premium version of us, oh, we're going to hit you with 50 ads. You can't escape them. Everything's a freaking ad. It's everywhere. I understand how business works. I understand that's how these platforms make their money, okay? I'm not dumb to that fact. However, we need to look at the psychology of what's happening here. Because there's something darker happening with all these ads. It is all subliminal. You don't even know what's happening. It's subconsciously doing something to you. It's creating muck in the brain. There are certain feelings that many ads trying to latch onto them, right? Like blood leeches. Hunger, thirst, self-esteem, envy, lust, anger, fear. All these different things that make up the human mind, the human consciousness. Ads are trying to subvert. They're trying to capitalize on and take advantage of. That's their purpose, to get you to buy and purchase something, right? Let's look at the psychology of sales, because that's ultimately what marketing is when it comes to these different ads, right? That's how they're written. Take it from somebody who worked in sales, granted for a short amount of time, a couple months, but as formally coached and trained in sales. Phone sales, high-ticket sales in particular, right? Now, there is a certain methodology. There is a certain concept that underpins all of sales, and that is humans buy with emotion versus logic. If you can get the emotion to override the logic, you can mostly bypass all their objections for the most part if you do it right. And they give you a whole sales script, and it's basically an indoctrination cycle. That's what it is. That's what's happening on the phone. I used to do this. I used to talk to parents of kids and say, hey, you and your son could get rich off of this e-commerce program. I'm not proud of what I did. I'm trying to atone for my sins by being a real vigilante, all right? I'm not proud of anything I did. But that's what you're doing. It is manipulation. It is. Any salesperson who tells you different, liars. They're lying, at least especially in the field I was in. Now, take that And I know a couple salespeople would be like, no, you're generalizing us, not all of us are like that. I'm not saying all salesmen are bad people, or like greedy car salesmen, but fundamentally there is manipulation happening. And now take that at a populist level, right? An emotional population is that much easier to control. Is that not the case? You'd have 100 different ads that are trying to acquire and manipulate 100 different feelings within you. You are bent and contorted out of your own will. Now you could say, okay, but what they're controlling us to what end? To buy just because they want money? That's a big part of it, right? But there's a bit more to it, right? But before I get into that, I want to talk about specific emotions, because I listed a bunch. One of the main emotions that I see being utilized is fear. That's the one thing they want to manipulate. Why? Because every emotion, especially one like fear, has multiple subcategories of fear, right? Fear of dying, fear of missing out, fear of living an ordinary life. And by the way, the fears that I emboldened are the ones I see most commonly taken advantage of by these ads. Fear of missing out, fear of living an ordinary life, fear of not being loved, fear of being rejected, fear of not living life, fear of not being successful. Some of these overlap. Fear of others, fear of being a disappointment, fear of losing control. Most, if not all of these, especially the ones I've boldened, are being constantly capitalized and taken advantage of by different ads and different pieces of content everywhere. The more emotionally wound up you are, the more distracted you are. Therefore, you're the easiest to control because you're too busy consuming and self-validating your decisions in the consumption cycle. Your desires and behaviors are being manipulated in real time. I'm no different. I'm no different than any of you, right? I get hit with these ads. I get some ads that make me hungry or make me angry or make me more horny and all this, right? It all is a massive campaign to affect your behavior. Manufacturing false consent to this system. And what this turns you into is the kind of person that said, oh, the system is good. The system's good, right? Without actually thinking what's being used to build the system. What levels of decay are happening in real time in the background. Let's look at politics. There is a term coined called post-truth politics. I believe this became popularized after 2016 because of Brexit and then the 2016 election and all that. Politics is a political culture where objective facts, evidence, and expert opinions are secondary to emotional appeals, personal beliefs, and the repetition of falsehoods. Marked by disregard for factual accuracy, this phenomenon sees politicians and political content creators and political media intentionally ignore, deny, and invent facts to shape public opinion and manufacture political narratives. Post-truth politics. In They Live, this is being done by all aspects of media and politics. It's shown in a very simplistic way, but the themes and what's actually being touched upon here is so relevant today, right? Let's look at mainstream media. Look at the New York Times. This is a full-on propaganda organization now. You could argue it always was, but now it's more blatant. People have done comparisons in terms of the way New York Times framed specific things, right? There is a huge lack of credibility and consistency in a lot of the reporting here. And this is just one of the many mainstream media outlets you can touch on. You can talk about how many crazy mainstream media outlets, CNN, Fox, blah, blah, all these, they're all political weapons now. So mainstream news, social media pundits that people listen to actively. And they listen to them so much that their algorithm starts blessing them with more and more people who say the same thing. And with more and more people saying the same thing, the more and more you get indoctrinated. The faster you get indoctrinated and the more you get controlled and divided from other human beings, therefore distracted. And this is not even just a consumption of food or recreational activities. This is a consumption of information that is calculated and directed at you for a specific purpose. All these pundits, all this stream of media, it's coming from this top-down effort to keep you obeying and consuming. Just keep obeying, keep consuming everything that we tell you to. We got you. Keep doing your thing, guys, you helpless little sheep that don't know what's happening above you. Keep going. We got you, don't worry. Life's good. Another thing that They Live touches on is the widening gap economically. They Live directly critiques the trickle-down economics of the 1980s. And trickle-down economics is a theory suggesting that tax cuts and financial benefits for corporations and the wealthy will stimulate investment and economic growth. This is what They Live was actually criticizing, ultimately benefiting everyone through job creation. But critics argue it increases income inequality. This has been an age-old argument. We know this, right? Fails to significantly boost wages for middle and low-income earners and often results in little to no trickle-down effect. Research has shown, including a 50-year-old study of 18 developing nations. I don't remember if this this is BBC or what, but this indicates that trickle-down economics did not work as promised, failing to boost GDP or employment, instead increasing income inequality. In They Live, the aliens don't operate like xenomorphs that are trying to kill you all and impregnate and all this stuff, or putting microchips in your brains. No. This is a slow, methodical decay of humanity through that same kind of cycle. The aliens want to exploit Earth for its natural resources and turn the planet into a profit-generating enterprise. Because the more and more they can get helpless drones doing all that and building this consumer society, the easier it is for them to extract the Earth and control it just for its natural resources. This is similar to the ruling class of elites that make up these corporations and affect so much policy and decision making. The ruling class who think in profit margins, not in terms of human viability and what's best for the people. And in the movie, there's a whole part of the film that takes place in a homeless encampment. Many of our main characters are there. They're not in these fancy houses. They're outside city limits in homeless encampments that are ruthlessly being destroyed by these elite aliens. This is a dystopian nightmare world, but it is our world. This isn't a Blade Runner film where they've aesthetically changed things and made it in the future. No. This is what's happening now. In modern times, critics argue that the gap between the rich and the rest of society has grown even larger, making the film's depiction of the homeless and the disenfranchised working class even more relevant today. There was a decade of stability, right? And then homelessness started increasing sharply since 2017. 2024 had like a record high, 771,480 people. Granted, the pandemic happened. Some people question why it happened and what occurred there, and was the decision-making of people at the top the cause for a lot of issues there. There's been a 12% rise in homelessness in 2023 and an 18% spike in 2024. There's multiple factors, but the affordability of housing. This is a full-on crisis that's occurred both in Canada and the US, right? So there's three big things that are causing this. Income stagnation. Household incomes have not kept pace with soaring home prices and rental costs. Financialization of housing. The treatment of housing has been commodified. It's become an investment by corporations, which has led to a loss of existing affordable rental stock. There's a lack of non-profit housing too now. A lot of social benefit programs and non-profit and public and cooperative housing. There's been a decline in investment in this stuff, which has left a gap in affordable options. So, essentially, if you look at the formula here, this is what the elites want. Consume more while we make everything more expensive, therefore making us more money. But you don't get paid more with the money that we're getting off you in this consumerist cycling. And with this money that we do get off you, we're going to buy the government in all the decision making and effectively control your life in every aspect. That's the formula. And we're going to literally propagandize you into being too distracted to look into that formula and see the truth about it. And then we have the whole issue of independent thought. No independent thought. I think most people lack critical thinking skills, which is crazy despite the fact that we have so much information at our fingertips with internet and social media. Media indoctrination and groupthink is a huge problem. I see it everywhere, and I've repeated this before about the algorithm and people being in echo chambers, but echo chambers has never been worse. I see it with left-wingers, right-wingers, conspiracy theorists, moderates, normal people. It's everywhere. And with that comes crazy groupthink. You just want to be with people who believe what you believe. You don't even want to hear another opinion. Everybody who thinks they're a part of a different collective, who thinks they have the truth in their hands, they're all part of a hive mind. And all these hive minds, they might be different, but they all lead to the same freaking place. These hive minds are reinforced by echo chambers, validation, and algorithms. Validation from other people, or clicks, or likes. Echo chambers with a bunch of people in the feed talking about the same stuff, and the algorithm giving you the same content. Therefore, removing independent thought and critical thinking. But the people that I find are the most critical thinkers are the ones who are relatively plugged out from all these echo chambers. They might be on the internet, but they're not plugged into this toxic slop of all this garbage on social media. They read a lot. They don't just look at headlines and look at TikToks of a short clip of an influencer saying some BS. No, they're reading stuff. They have a knowledge of history and politics. They actually read. They have stable, healthy relationships. This is due to them being open-minded and less hot-headed and tunnel-visioned in specific ways of thinking, right? These are the people that I see as more open-minded and have more critical thinking and independent thought. There's so many trash influencers, people with crazy opinions who just want to say it everywhere. Twitter is a cesspool, man. It's paradoxical because Twitter is such a fast way to get information like this, but so much of it is garbage. And like I said, all these hive-minded people who think they're so different from one another and they have the truth, they all lead to the same place of this divided hawk of sheep. That's what it is. You're cattle. There's a quote in They Live called, "They live, we sleep." I think most people are sleepwalking through life, personally, and I'm not any different. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying And I was one of them too, right? Like, I've been sleepwalking through life. Everyone is too distracted about what's in front of them and all this garbage on the internet, right? We've become an apathetic population, man. There's a difference between an apathetic population and a decisive collective. Within 3 to 4 months, I truly believe humanity, because we outnumber these crazy elites by millions, could organize an effective revolution. And I'm not talking about some crazy sporadic revolution that just leads to more and more chaos. I believe with the right leadership and all that, we could organize as a collective and overtake these frauds. But nobody wants to, because ultimately, this is what society has tailor-made people into thinking really matters. And by the way, you might think, no, money doesn't really matter, it's not the end all be all, but your actions dictate everything to me, right? Most people, their actions are wired to maximize this rather than the well-being of other people, rather than the well-being of humanity. This is your God. It's shown in they live. This is one of the subliminal messaging. Like, this is your God. They want you to think that's your God. If you're religious, you do realize that in many ways, the society that we have been made drones to is one of the most spiritually destitute societies ever. Like, you could obviously argue, okay, come on, it's capitalism, Zafi. There's so many other worse ways to live life. We don't want to be communist or socialist. I understand. You could argue that this is the best of evils, practically, right? But that doesn't mean it's not evil. Look who gets ahead in life. Look who's able to escape and get away with everything. Morality and spirituality has gone out the freaking window. I don't mean to complain. Because look, especially us in the West, and I don't want to generalize here because I know there's people that have issues, that struggle to make ends meet and have other things pressing. I was very privileged to live in a life where I didn't have to struggle a lot in that way. But for a lot of us, we have everything we could ask for. Roof over our heads, we have information at our fingertips, endless entertainment, all this food, right? It's very easy for people, society, to say, sit back, relax, and enjoy it. Don't think about it too much. If you think something's wrong underneath, it's probably not. It's very easy for us to be told that. Until we put on the glasses and see, not everything is as it seems. Quote a line from the Bible that I really like. He answered and said, whether he be a sinner or no, I know not. One thing I know, that whereas I was blind, now I see. I think what they live touches on is that I see moment. When will that happen? One of my friends told me, he asked me, he's like, with the Epstein files being released and all these wars now that are about to happen, and a specific country that seems to be freaking hellbent on controlling everything, what will it take for people to stand up and start a revolution and just freaking take over these politicians and these elites and stop them? What will it take? It's a tough question, because what's a better incentive than, hey, if you don't do anything, you'll live a normal life and have a family and kid and survive. You'll be safe. If you try anything, you're going to die or end up in jail, right? There's the incentive to stay put and do what you're told and just be as successful as you can and just chill with your family and all that. The incentive for that is way higher than let's start a revolt and see what happens, right? But I do believe that there's a lot of quiet suffering within individuals, and eventually something has to give. We have people so divided and people getting so heavily radicalized that we have all this unnecessary violence. Whereas we have a lot of people who could make a difference in a good, lawful way, but just don't want to. And a lot of people are just quietly suffering as a result. I feel like there's a huge young generation of people. I can't speak for older people, right? But I see my parents and my friends' parents and how detached they are from all the stuff that we're seeing now. And they've lived their lives. They grew up in a completely different era, right? And you could argue there was the same issues existed there as they exist now. Obviously, they was in the 80s, right? But dude, we have the freaking mental health crisis among young men. We have so many issues happening now. I feel like now more than ever, people need to be united with a purpose. We're not in the 60s and the 70s war where there was all this stuff happening, right? Cuban Missile Crisis, Vietnam, civil rights movement. Something's happening now. People seem to be awakening to this. I feel like there's never been a better time to unite with purpose. And I don't mean being radicalized like people are now with this politics BS. I mean genuinely united to stop the big issue. This big elitist class divide. This fight against the malaise of apathy that's infected the population under this current society. I think They Live touches on all these things so well, and I think it could touch on things so much better if it was a TV show, personally. Because it asks the fundamental question, what's scarier than a monster? Well, being told that there is no monster, even though you know there is. That's really scary. What's scarier than that? Being alone with that knowledge, being alone in that dark, having to fight the monster that no one says exists. If you're alone trying to fight the monster, oh man, that's probably the scariest thing of all. But you're not alone, ladies and gentlemen. Because I have my grand announcement at the end of this video, okay? The world needs an awakening. Hell, you could even say the world needs a revolution. A secret society of vigilantes. Not so secret now. But I've made this announcement for weeks now. And people are probably wondering, Zaffy, what the heck? We've emailed you. Where's the response? And I'm going to respond to everyone soon because we're beginning the vetting process very soon. I am looking for people who are genuinely interested in making a difference. A non-profit vigilante organization. That's being lawful. And even if you don't have these skills, you can still apply. And all you need to do is email me. My email will be in my YouTube bio. I'm looking for lawyers or people who have connections and knowledge about the law, legal experts, law enforcement or people who have connections to law enforcement, journalists, social media growth experts, cybersecurity experts, finance and accounting experts, historians, scholars. I'm looking for the most knowledgeable people that I can find that have expertise in different facets that we're trying to acquire so that we can cover all of our bases. We are a vigilante organization that's very lawful. We're operating in the law, no violence, none of that bullshit. But that's my announcement. They Live is one of these few films like V for Vendetta, Batman Begins, Daredevil, all these kinds of media that inspire me to look beyond the pale and see there's something incredibly wrong happening behind things. And I know many of you agree. So if you're interested, hit me up. Bye.